know many of you listen to this podcast on the go, driving to work, working out, even doing chores. Now you can get CPE credit for that time. With Earmark, you can earn free NASBA-approved CPE for listening to the Inside Public Accounting podcast. After you listen to an episode, take a quiz, and your certificate will be ready. Earmark has courses for everyone in your firm, from staff to partners. Get started today at earmark.app or download the free app on the App Store.
In the kingdom of numbers, it's all about the data. It's all about the research. It's all about the stats. This is the Inside Public Accounting podcast, where we give you the stories, the trends behind the numbers. I'm here with my host, Chelsea Summers. Chelsea, this is a show where we're going to dive into one of your very rich reports, the 2025 Human Resources one. It's about the turnover, the demographics, the talent, the compensation, the benefits, training, recruiting. This gets you really excited, I'm sure.
It does. We had 326 firms that participated in the survey this year, and those firms range from smaller than 5 million to over 75 million in revenue. The results that we got from the survey really gave us a fascinating look at how firms are trying to attract and retain and develop talent in this really tough labor market.
And if you talk to firms about the biggest challenges right now, they come under two headings, technology and talent, isn't it? And it's the people and all the things around that. So people are very complex humans with emotions, all kind of things going on. And it's brilliant that you've got some hard facts and figures behind that. So when we look at the profession right now, what does the average accounting workforce actually look like?
So the workforce is pretty young overall. About 3 in 10 staff right now are under the age of 30, and more than half are under the age of 40. On the other end of the spectrum, 10% of employees are over 60, which really starts to bring the succession planning into focus.
Well, I've heard that 10% of accountants are at or close to retirement age. It's probably a lot more than that then as they're phased out, and we've got to replace those. That's a lot of leadership. It's an interesting mix. When you look at the experience at the top end, the people coming in at the bottom end, does that give you hope for the future of accounting?
It does. I think when all of those older professionals start to retire, yes, it leaves an opening of leadership, and all of that talent and all of that knowledge leaves. But it also brings in new partners to the partner group with fresh perspectives and different experiences. And in a world where the profession is changing very quickly, and like you mentioned, besides people, technology is the other one that really has people's, the people are really trying to focus on. I think that new generation of partners is going to be a breath of fresh air for the accounting profession.
Yeah. What about gender? Have you got some numbers on that for us?
We do. When you look at gender, women actually make up the majority of the staff, 57%. When you get to the equity partner level, though, that drops to just a quarter. So there's still a really big gap in leadership representation.
We're getting that in the UK as well, and this is an international show. And women are overrepresented in accounting generally. There are more accounting graduates coming through than women, but in leadership positions, they are not very well represented at all. And it's nice if we can sometimes give any reasoning behind the stats. You're a woman, I'm a man. Do you have any theories on why that might be?
I think, again, with the older partners retiring and the new partners coming in, I think that firms are going to be more open to those different perspectives. And there's a bias there where you see somebody that looks like you and you say they must embody all of my talents and all of my strengths. Yeah. And it's easy to then put that person in your role because they feel familiar. So I think it really takes work to go out of what feels familiar and say this person that may not have the same background or, may look different than me, that they could also have the strengths I have and succeed in the role that I'm succeeding in. So I think it just takes intentionality. And while we're making progress, there's still a lot more to be made.
And it has traditionally been a man's world, isn't it? It's very much so. I go back to the UK, who I'm sure we invented accounting, pinstripe suits, bowler hats, canes, things like that. It's such an antiquated world. What about the racial and ethnic diversity? You talked about backgrounds there. We can hit gender, but are we seeing any progress there? We've heard a lot about the DEI movement and then Donald Trump sunsetting a lot of that. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and we're honestly not seeing much progress in the numbers. About 79% of the staff identify as white, with 3% identifying as Black, 5% as Hispanic, and 6% as Asian. Unfortunately, those numbers have been pretty stagnant over the last several years. And that tells us the firms still do have a lot of work to do in building those diverse talent pipelines.
I interviewed a guy called Herschel Friesen a while ago. He's a partner at Crow, but he was also the chairman of the National Association of Black Accountants. And we were talking to him about his early days. And the phrase you mentioned just a moment ago, there was nobody like me, he came up with that phrase too. He said, when I was coming through the ranks, there was nobody I could look at to say, I want to be where you are. There was nobody like me. So that will present a problem for us if perhaps we're not more embracing of diversity.
Absolutely, because those numbers don't accurately represent what the United States or North America looks like. So we need to start to bridge that gap a little bit.
So if we summarize it, we've got a pipeline that's young, that's diverse in gender, that is, well, still struggling a little bit with diversity at the ownership level. What's the long-term impact of those stats?
Firms really need to be more intentional about the advancement and the equity pathways. Otherwise, I think we're going to continue to see that same imbalance persist throughout another generation, which would be very unfortunate.
And does imbalance challenge firm business models and firm structures too? Because if things need to change, we can't keep going down the equity model, perhaps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what has got us here has been great, but I think what's going to get us to that next level, we need to take a fresh look at how we're doing things and be open to different opportunities.
I'm curious about how people affects turnover, and you've probably got some stats for that for us on this, haven't you? Because you look at all the different dynamics of people in this human resources report.
We do. And turnover was just over 12% for this year for the professional staff. And what stands out on that number is that 71% of that turnover is voluntary. So in most cases, people are choosing to leave their firms rather than being let go. This tells us that the turnover isn't an issue of downsizing at the firms. It's employees feeling like they either have better opportunities elsewhere because of flexibility or searching for higher pay or different opportunities outside of public accounting. And looking at those larger firms, those above 75 million in revenue, the turnover is a little bit higher at 14%. Smaller firms, it's closer to 8 to 9%. That's a pretty big contrast.
Yeah.
Big firms may have more career opportunities, but they also sometimes have heavier workloads. There's more competition, and there's the bigger possibility of burnout, where smaller firms are often holding on to their people longer because of the close-knit feel, the culture, the flexibility.
That's what I'm hearing too. You can aspire to a Big Four position, and that is the jewel in the crown, isn't it? But it takes its toll. You pay a price for that, and you do hear a lot of big layoffs in the big firms. They lay off people in their thousands because they've overhired maybe during the pandemic, and they've got to rebalance their workforce. But if you are in a smaller firm, you've maybe got more intimacy, more of a family feel. You hear that phrase, a forever firm, where you don't want to leave. I wanted to ask you, where do you feel these people are going that leave firms? Are they starting their own firms? Are they getting out of accounting together? Do you have any sense of that?
While I wish I could wave my magic ball and see where all these individuals go, we don't have an accurate way to track that right now. So I get asked that question all the time. Are they leaving their profession? Are they just going to other firms? Are they going to industry? And I think it's all of them. Where that number goes year over year or over time, I don't have the numbers to back that up. Anecdotally, a lot of individuals go into industry or go work for clients. Sometimes they come back because they liked what they did at the accounting firm, or, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. But I think sometimes they're moving to different firms, different opportunities. We love to see it when they leave and start their own firms. The entrepreneurship, I think, is going to help the profession a lot move forward. But it's really all of the above is where they're going.
Yeah. So it's not just about staff turnover and churn. Clearly, there's a signal here about how firms are managing culture, managing opportunity, managing their workforce, right?
Exactly. It's one of those metrics that really tells a lot more if you read between the lines. Firms can't just look at the percentage. They need to ask why the people are leaving, who is leaving, and what can they do differently to keep their best talent.
Well, big isn't always better, it seems.
That's what the data is showing. Those larger firms, more opportunity, but also competition. The smaller firms, I think, do have an opportunity to keep those people with flexibility and culture if they make it a priority.
And you mentioned burnout too. I did hint earlier that it extols a price when you work for a big firm or a big consulting organization. They want a lot from you. They pay you a lot, but they want a lot from you. And it's okay if you want to make $1 million a year and be a partner, but you've got to walk a very dangerous line with your health, with your private life and everything else if you go down that line, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think one of the lessons that's coming out of COVID is people are taking a lot harder look at their own lives and saying, what do I really want? And again, what got us here, those 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, I don't think is going to serve the profession moving forward. And we really need to look at how to look at those staff, not just as numbers on a spreadsheet, but as individuals with lives, and how do we support them to get their loyalty, but also their most productive self.
Yeah, that's so true. One of my pet topics, I love talking about employer brand, to what degree a firm is a great place to work. And I saw a firm recently that had put on their website, we have a free fruit bowl.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm thinking, you've really not understood benefits. You've really not understood what turns your employees on. And they thought that a fruit bowl would really tip the dial. So we hear a lot about benefits, unlimited personal time off, parental leave. How common are those now? Are they still gimmicks or are they still very much in play, Chelsea?
PTO is definitely still out there, but it's still not something that's the norm. Across all firms, 16% are offering it to staff in their first couple of years. In those bigger firms, those over 75 million, it jumps to 30. So it's something that's more common in those larger firms. It's becoming a differentiator for them in a way when they're competing for those talents.
I'd be interested to know as well how many people take advantage of unlimited time off, because I've seen a stat where when people get unlimited holidays, they don't take them, or even if they get 6 weeks holiday, they only take 4 because either they're wedded to the job or they've got huge responsibility or they actually really enjoy the work or they feel that their career would take a dive if they showed that they were taking time off. So there's maybe a lot behind that we could dig into in the future.
Absolutely.
I'm curious as a parent myself, what about the parental leave? Maternity, paternity.
So parental leave is a place that we're really starting to see movement in our surveys.
Okay.
2/3 of firms are now providing paid maternity leave that averages 8 weeks. I know coming from the UK, that probably blows your mind, but we're hitting 8 weeks now. And a paid paternity leave is offered at 59% of firms. And that paid leave is averaging 5 weeks a year, which is an increase over last year. So firms are starting to take these family benefits more seriously.
And do you think there'll come a time when it's a competitive advantage because you've got to offer it because all of your competitors for the same talent is offering it? So maybe it's going to keep going in that direction.
Yeah, that would be great. In my ideal world, there would be a government standard that, they would be above and beyond. But for now, it's amazing to see the firms offering paid leave for the individuals at their firm.
What about other benefits? And any fruit bowls coming out?
We don't ask specifically about fruit bowls, but 93% of firms do offer a 401k and they average match about 3%. That number for the match has crept up over the years. Another common benefit is vision coverage, which about 95% of firms have. Also, CPA exam reimbursement at 92%. And then half of the firms are offering wellness programs. If you went back 10 years ago, firms would have been like, what's a wellness program? Why would we ever need to offer that? But it's great to see those firms thinking outside the box and trying to get those competitive advantages of saying, how do we keep our staff from burning out? We offer these benefits that really help them as a person. The trend is towards more flexibility and family-oriented support.
It's great to see firms thinking more seriously about this, because back in the day, there would be foosball tables and ping pong tables and a fruit bowl and snack bars and teas and coffees and things like that. And they thought that would sway it. But
business casual Fridays.
Yes, casual Fridays, dress down Fridays. We had those too. So the basics are covered. But as you say, we're hearing about mental health first aiders now. So when you speak to wellness, those kind of people on site, because you might have a breakdown or an anxiety attack or a panic attack or something like that, that's very real. And I guess that would be wrapped up in employee support.
Absolutely. Whether that's internal at the firm or just the ability to seek that out on your own. It could be a number of things. It could also look like taking fitness and nutrition more seriously and offering support in those areas. So more than just a fruit bowl out or pizza lunches during tax season, but again, helping your staff be the best version of themselves.
Okay. So let's hit compensation. It does come back to the money. We can give all the parental leave and wellness programs and flexibility we like. And people do look at these things, don't they, when they're deciding on a place to land?
Certainly. And one of the things that we're keeping an eye on is the rise of inflation. And firms are doing a little to keep up, but the merit increase numbers have softened a bit from last year. For entry-level staff, the total increase, and we track a cost of living increase and a merit increase, is about 6.7%. When you look at mid-level professionals with 6 to 8 years of experience, it's 7.2%. And for the more seasoned folks, the average increase is 6.5%.
Your dollar's not buying as much as it used to, right?
Unfortunately, it is not.
Those are meaningful raises, though. That's good. And firms have got to keep putting up what they're paying to stay competitive. But how does that compare to last year's peaks?
Yeah, it's down a little bit. Firms are starting to pull back. I think they gave increases because it was necessary in the environment with inflation, with all the competition. The inflation pressure is still real, if not more than it was before, but they're balancing pay with other retention tools like the flexibility, like specific trainings and more career paths.
I was taught once from a branding expert that just because you're in accounting, it doesn't mean your competitors are accountants. And he gave the example of when you walk into a hotel and that reception, that welcome, clients will compare that to walking into an accounting firm.
Sure.
And if they don't get a great welcome there, they'll compare it to a hotel experience. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is staff compensation won't necessarily be compared to other accounting firms. Accountants with CPA qualifications will look at tech, they will look at accounting and industry, they'll look at CFO roles and other things and compare their salary with that, even though it's not apples comparing with apples. So
Absolutely.
It's interesting. Any other notes on staff compensation that we should know about?
We take a look at bonuses and how those play in the picture. Mid-level staff average $5,700 in bonuses. And once you hit 9 or more years at the firm, that jumps to over $9,500. So while base raises have leveled out a little bit, firms are starting to lean on bonuses as a way to recognize their top performers.
That's an extra month or two salary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So bonuses are necessarily becoming a bigger part of the talent strategy.
Yeah, and they're giving the firm some flexibility. Instead of having to lock in higher salaries that are long-term, they can adjust bonuses year on year depending on firm performance.
Well, firm performance and individual performance, do you get a sense of what these bonuses are being awarded for?
No, that's not something that we look at and track. At some firms, there is what looks like an equity division, but it's profit sharing at a staff or manager or senior level. At some firms, it's just a percentage of your salary. So I think it depends firm to firm and probably inside those firms as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking of talent as a shrinking pipeline, less and less people coming into accounting as a career choice. Maybe the number of grads going down, the number of entry-level jobs and have been talked about as diminishing because of AI and automation taking that up. How are firms finding talent in a shrinking pipeline of those newly qualified career professionals?
Yes, firms are still looking at college recruiting as a backbone of their strategy.
They're still going on campus and canvassing?
They are.
Right.
83% of firms are out on campus. And those larger firms are targeting an average of 16 different schools that they go to recruit.
16. That's a lot of ground to cover, isn't it? 16 campuses.
It is. And it shows how aggressive these firms have to be. Internships are another part of their strategy, with 9 out of 10 firms that offering them. On average, they're hiring about 55% of those interns. So the internships are really a pipeline for their full-time staff.
Yeah. I was at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, a few months ago and talking to some of the professors there, and they invited the recruiters from a number of local firms, some of them very, very big firms, even a couple of the big 4 firms were in there. And they were talking about what can we do better to supply you with great students for internships? What about the cycle of it? When do you want these to be made available? So the universities, academic institutions themselves, they really want to liaise with firms to make sure they're providing good employment opportunities for their grads.
Yeah, and that's a great partnership and relationship for the firms and for the schools and for the staff coming up.
So essentially, firms get a chance to test drive with these apprenticeships. They can give them a trial, a pilot, whatever you want to call it. They can look at these future hires to see if they're a fit for the firm.
Yeah, exactly. With fewer accounting majors and accounting graduates out there, firms are starting to branch out into some non-traditional hires. A quarter are bringing in business majors. 14% of our firms are dipping into computer science and engineering graduates. And even 5% of staff firms are looking at liberal arts majors. It's about widening the net and then using training to fill in that technical knowledge.
I'm hearing that too, that accounting firms are looking at hiring non-accounting professionals, but it sounds like they're trying to solve the shortage by moving beyond the traditional career pathways.
Yeah, and to stay competitive, many are putting some money behind that. About 40% of firms are offering signing bonuses. Those bonuses are averaging $4,000. Employee referrals are another huge source of getting talent into the firms. 90% of firms are using some sort of employee referral program. And those referral bonuses average over $4,000. For those largest firms, it's more than $5,000.
I wonder what the recruitment firms are thinking about this, that are losing out on a first year salary to give you your next employee. Goodness me. So, basically, the 10 in every employer into a recruiter.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And the firms that do it right are playing the long game. They're building those campus relationships. They're investing in their internships, and they're rewarding their own people for bringing in the right talent to the firm.
So they're spreading the net wider. They're trying to compete for talent outside of accounting, maybe because there's not enough talent in accounting or they want different, diverse skills.
Yeah, and with fewer accounting grads, firms really have to look in those other fields and then invest in the training to bring those people along.
Well, that brings me nicely to something else I wanted to ask. Once people get in the door, if I was being interviewed, I'd say, what are you going to do with me? How are you going to develop me as a person? How are you going to train me? How are you going to make me better than I am? So what's happening in the training and development world?
Firms are investing in it, but the numbers show that they keep it pretty lean. On average, firms are spending just under 1% of their revenue on training. For someone with 3 to 5 years experience, that works out to about $1,800 a year. And the partner level, the average training and CPE budget jumps to over $3,000.
That seems a lot. That's certainly a bigger investment the further on people get in their careers.
It is. And beyond those budgets, half of all firms offer tuition reimbursement for advanced degrees. Those average more than $5,000 per employee. Also, 76% of firms are offering CPA exam bonuses. And those bonuses come in a little over $3,000 on average.
That's a good incentive to sit down and finish your exams, isn't it?
It is. And they're backing it up with support too. About 7 in 10 firms have formal mentoring programs, and 3/4 are running engagement or satisfaction surveys to make sure that they're really keeping a pulse on how their people are doing.
I spoke to a managing partner of a top 80 firm just before we recorded this. And she was telling me that they employ 3 in-house executive coaches.
Yeah. Great. I love
that. And that they troubleshoot, they do all kinds of things. They do round tables, they do one-to-one sessions. Mentoring's becoming standard now, isn't it, in firms?
Yeah, it is. I think firms are starting to realize that retention is not just about the paychecks. It's about the career support. It's about providing those staff meaningful feedback. And it's about helping people feel connected and supported in the growth.
So what about performance reviews? You mentioned feedback. Are firms changing the way they evaluate staff?
They are. About half of firms are still doing annual reviews, but nearly 40% have moved to semi-annual, and some of the bigger firms are even doing evaluations after major engagements. It's not just about the technical skills anymore. Most firms are also looking at goals, they're looking at leadership, and even business development during those evaluations.
Yeah, rainmaking. Are you bringing in the business? Are you creating new opportunities for us? So even at the top level, and accountability is a big part of the culture.
It certainly is. Around 3/4 of firms are doing partner evaluations formally as well. Those look at leadership, they look at client growth, they look at the people skills. The old set it and forget it model for partners is not what is the reality anymore.
We've covered such a lot today. It's been like a whirlwind tour of this report. What have we hit? Demographics, turnover, churn, benefits, pay, recruiting, training, technology, evaluations.
Yeah.
Anything else we've missed, Chelsea? We've been very comprehensive.
I think the big takeaway is that the talent strategy really is the firm's strategy. Whether it's the compensation, the mentoring, the firms investing in people are the ones setting it themselves up for long-term success. And I have to give my plug. If you're interested in learning more about the IPA report, specifically this one or all of our reports, reach out, or you can check us out on our website and find out more information about the plethora of data that we were not able to cover on our short podcast today.
Well, thanks, Chelsea. Thanks, everyone, for watching, listening. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, do share the love with colleagues. Leave us a review wherever you pick up the podcast and hit follow so you don't follow the next episode of the Inside Public Accounting podcast with me, Rob Brown, and Chelsea Summers.
And remember, the data is just the starting point. It's how we act on that data that really is going to shape the future of the profession. Thanks for spending time with us, and we'll see you on the next episode.